By far, the biggest thing to come out of this week, and probably the last couple weeks, is Dragonflight. Patch 10.1. The Embers of Neltharion. Now this is, it will be the first major content patch for Dragonflight. Now, you know my opinions on Dragonflight. I really like Dragonflight. Dragonflight has been a breath of fresh air after 2 expansions of awful storytelling, bad systems, kinda okay gameplay at times, and retcons. Oh my god, don't even get me started with Shadowlands again. But Dragonflight, they have flipped the switch. They flipped it. They went flip. And now we're back to how shit should have been for the latter half of Battle for Azeroth and the entirety of Shadowlands. So, on Wednesday, it was yesterday, on Wednesday, which was the 8th of March, Blizzard has announced that Dragonflight patch 10.0 Embers of Neltharion will continue our journey through the Dragon Isles, taking us deep beneath the Dragon Isles in pursuit of the primal incarnate Farak. Patch 10.1 is the first major content patch for Dragonflight and contains a significant amount of content. Now keep in mind, this content is also on top of all the shit that's coming in 10.0.7, which is, the fucking, the Forbidden Reach. There's a bunch of new story beats with that stuff. There's a whole bunch of weird new mechanics that they're adding, new dragon flying stuff. They're adding a bunch of shit. And that patch ain't even out yet. So we're getting an announcement of this patch when the patch that's supposed to precede it isn't even out yet. And like I was telling people the other day, this shit reminds me of, maybe you guys weren't around, or maybe you don't remember, or maybe you do remember. If you remember Legion, right before Legion came out, right before it was even released, we were getting info on patch 6.1. Or not 6.1, 7.1, which was the Return to Karazhan. And we got a trailer for fucking Return to Karazhan despite the fact that Legion, the actual expansion, wasn't even out yet. And that was crazy to me. This feels a lot like that, where they're going hard. They're going ham on this shit, trying to make Dragonflight the best they can possibly make it to make up for the absolute awfulness that was Shadowlands. So, let's go over some fucking features with this. So, we have a new zone. It's the Zeralet Cavern. Now, the Zeralet Cavern is the space and area below the Dragon Isles. Remember that map I keep mentioning? I've mentioned it a bunch of times before, where they data mined some map way before the fucking expansion was even put out, that there was some map and it was underneath the Dragon Isles, right? So we already kind of knew that we were going underground for 10.1 since it was marked as 10.1. And this kind of, it's not surprising, but hey, it feels really good to be right. Now, this patch, it's going to have a new raid. Big fucking shocker there. The new raid is Aberrus, the Shadowed Crucible, which, as I've as what I have been told, the Shadow Crucible is, it's kind of like the place where Deathwing did all of his shit, right? Back when he was Neltharion. It is one of his testing grounds. And Aberrus and the Zeralet Cavern, this is the place where the Drakthir were made. Especially Aberrus, right? It was the place where the Drakthir were kind of tested on and created until they became the Drakthir that we know today. But it's also the place where Neltharion gave in to the whispers of the old gods. Oh boy. Oh boy. If you have tuned into any other podcast or if you've watched any of the videos on YouTube about it, you fucking know that I've been talking about old gods and underneath the Dragon Isles for a while. Since this podcast's inception, I've been talking about this shit. And you know what? It's fucking happening. And it's gonna be great. Now, there's gonna be some new Mythic Plus dungeons in the rotation. I think the ones off the top of my head, it is the two older dungeons are Neltharion's Lair and fucking Vortex Pinnacle. I think it is. It's one of the air dungeons from Cataclysm, which is very fucking fitting because, well, I mean, you can kind of piece things together, right? The fucking patch is called Embers of Neltharion, and you can go and do Neltharion's Lair, which was a dungeon in Legion in the current Mythic Plus pool. And then you have the Vortex Pinnacle, or whichever one it is, where it's fucking Alakir. And Alakir, for those who don't know, was one of the main four elements that were subservient to the old gods. And so was Neltharion, which this whole patch is based around. Anyways, so we got new outdoor content, including a new renowned faction. We got dragon riding updates and Firak assaults. Now, Firak assaults. Firak is the name of one of the primal incarnates. He is the fire guy. We'll get to him in a little bit when we talk about 10.0.7, but that's who that is. So the next primal that we're going to be fucking around with is going to be Firak, not Iridikron, as I've been saying. But I mean, we like I just said, we'll get to that shit because 10.0.7 is, you know, its own fucking beast. Anyways, and we also get a whole bunch of different class changes. We get cross-faction guilds, which is fucking crazy. I know a lot of people are happy about this, but I've also seen people who are fucking mauling. They're like, oh my god, this is it. Blizzard's ruining the game. I cannot believe it. And you know what? You're right. I cannot believe. How dare Blizzard let players play with other players? How fucking dare they? How such the audacity to allow one faction of players that is predominant play with the other faction that is struggling to find a 5-man dungeon group. How fucking dare they? No. They couldn't. They should. They wouldn't. Anyways.